Hello, my name is Rie Kamikubo for Remote Kai 2020. I'm very happy to present this work that details a study conducted to investigate support strategies for remote guides in assisting people with visual impairments for effective indoor navigation. Navigation without vision is extremely difficult. To compensate for the vision loss that limits safe and independent navigation, they commonly rely on mobility aids such as a white cane and a guide dog. In recent years, they have access to high-tech assistive tools such as smartphone-based navigation systems for indoors and outdoors. However, many people with visual impairments still choose to rely on in-person sighted guidance. The mobility aids cannot always ensure quality assistance, such as when they're navigating unfamiliar indoor spaces like hospitals or complex buildings with unexpected construction areas. In situations like this, navigating with a sighted guide is still arguably the most efficient method. It can also reduce their psychological stress and mental demand associated with independent travel under the vision loss. Personal assistance services offer reliable and consistent support from sighted guides who are trained and aware of specific techniques, such as making sure that their walking pace and stance are appropriate for the visually impaired companions, or using verbal and physical cues to negotiate a variety of travel situations together. The drawbacks of sighted guidance are that its service may not always be available in everyday life and may not be ideal for promoting independence of people with visual impairments. Additionally, social distancing has created a significant barrier to rely on personal assistance. Many challenges are now reported by those who urgently need a sighted guide, but there's no one available to help them. As highly promising solutions, a number of commercially available applications provide sighted guidance of remote workers, opening up opportunities for visually impaired users to access human power support. Be My Eyes is a well-recognized example that establishes a video connection to pair visually impaired users with crowdsourced volunteers. The crowd volunteers interpret the video feed from the user's smartphone camera and deliver visual information in nearly real time. With another service called IRA, it offers certified human agents who remotely assist people in their everyday tasks, from grocery shopping to exploring neighborhoods. Our eventual goal is to make such remote guidance cooperation a promising platform for people with visual impairments, especially to match them with effective remote workers who can provide desirable mobility support. Despite the availability of remote guidance services, there is an absence of known strategies that remote workers can follow to provide effective remote guidance. The service study of Be My Eyes has reported individual variability of the remote workers that inhibits quality assurance. Developing expertise of the remote worker is crucial, as the prior study has shown how sighted individuals are not always familiar with the needs of the blind or low vision users, or the way they navigate, which lead to providing unreliable or inaccessible help. In this work, we aim to better understand the requirements of effective remote guides and recommend support strategies for the network of remote workers to effectively assist people navigating with visual impairments. For this purpose, we decided to evaluate remote guide performances in a way that we can identify desirable support characteristics of remote guides. We also try to gain knowledge on challenges of remote guide practices to discuss design implications to support remote workers without the requisite expertise. In our study, we assessed the performance of sighted individuals who were given a role to remotely assist people with visual impairments in indoor navigation. We asked the pedestrians, labeled here as PVI, to navigate unfamiliar planned roads in an office building located on school campus. They used the video conference system to receive remote assistance while sharing their front view of the environment captured through their smartphone camera positioned on their chest. Each pedestrian completed 2 navigation tasks with different sighted participants, being either trained or untrained for sighted guidance. A sighted guide specialist for trained guides belonging to public disability services or private assistance services. They are experienced with escorting people, mainly those with visual impairments, to their desired destination. We recruited 8 other sighted participants on site of the study environment who are not previously trained for sighted guidance. The sighted participants received a floor plan with an annotated travel path for this collaborative navigation task. Considering a real-world assistance scenario that indoor map information is not commonly available, and the floor plan is the only available reference to capture the building layout from the user's camera. To investigate how remote workers should give support to visually impaired pedestrians in the study context, PVI was asked a set of questions to share their ratings and perspectives on the user experience with different remote guides. In addition to the report scores, PVI described how the navigation instructions that they received were effective or ineffective. We also followed their subjective feedback by analyzing what kind of spoken language and instructions were used by the 2 types of remote guides. To gather two-way perspectives and understand the needs and challenges in providing remote mobility assistance, all sighted participants completed a questionnaire to report their self-reviews of the performance. Specifically, they were asked to indicate navigation scenarios that they felt that they provided guidance effectively or with difficulties. We held an additional semi-structured interview session with trained sighted guides to learn about how given instructions and provide assistance remotely are different compared to their typical in-person guidance. From our comparative analysis of trained and untrained guides to learn about desirable communication and assistance strategies in remote sighted guidance, these are the highlights of the results, which I'm going to talk through these one by one. Takeaways of this work include a set of suggestions for remote workers to develop the necessary expertise to perform effective remote guidance in assisting people navigating with visual impairments. The key characteristics extracted from trained guides in comparison to untrained guides were associated with the quality of verbal description and the descriptive terminology. Our analysis of verbal behaviors validated that trained guides provided contextual description using environmental features more than untrained guides. People with visual impairments reported the difficulties to respond to their brief instructions from untrained guides because they lack environmental clues or use numerical measurements to express estimated distance to turns or landmarks. As mentioned by one of the PVIs, I have to think hard for move a number of steps. As a result, PVI favored the style of verbal support from trained guides who use non-visual contextual details in navigation instructions. Perspectives of sighted participants matched with the concerns of PVI, highlighted the importance of tailored guidelines for suitable guidance terminology. Even though guidance experts knew how to better phrase the instructions, they were not happy with their remote guide performance, while untrained guides were satisfied with their approaches to give verbal instructions. Trained guides reported frustration and extra effort just by following the already known strategies for guiding visually impaired people in person. They usually rely on nonverbal methods for sharing directional cues so that they can focus on providing detailed information about the environment verbally. As reported by one of the trained guides on their typical in-person guidance, if it is simply walking straight, we just walk together on the spot. In remote assistance, I needed to constantly say something or the companion might get worried. Another finding, despite the fact that PVIs were satisfied with verbal description methods by trained guides, they describe unreliable guidance to reach their destination effectively. guides who did not have enough environmental knowledge. In this case, the trained guides who were completely new to the study environment constantly faced ambiguity in guiding the planned routes and reported challenges in sensing depth and detecting the current location of the PVI. People who knew the environment well provided guidance with more confidence and precision. We report that environmental familiarity of remote guides plays an important role in ensuring the quality of remote navigation, as reflected in a question given to PVI to rate the perceived effectiveness of overall assistance on a scale of 1 to 7. We found the lower effectiveness ratings in completed experimental navigation tasks with trained guides. Trained guides participants strongly suggested the importance of social awareness and technical efforts to compensate for the lack of environmental familiarity. One participant mentioned, if I have a reasonable map and understand the overall spatial relation, I will have less overloads and can assist the person remotely. Environmental expertise is important, and even for those professional guides who are used to sighted guidance. One last important aspect found from our study was regarding strategies to build mutual efforts of both parties involved in collaborative navigation tasks. PVI initiated a mutual contribution to aim the camera correctly because the camera work impacts what the remote guides can do. For effective remote collaboration, camera work was not considered a one-way street, as described by, when I noticed we were approaching the intersection, I tried to walk slowly, not to stop in the middle of it, so the camera can capture the whole view of the path. I care about the information that I was sending. And also another participant constantly asked whether her walking pace was appropriate for the guides to follow the video. So rather than having leader-follower relationships as observed in in-person assistance where sighted guides lead the way with full responsibility, remote mobility assistance highlighted the needs to empower cooperation awareness. One trained guide recommended that, unlike regular sighted guidance, I only have the camera. The pedestrian needs to be considerate about capturing the right information. A quick recap, our study gained insights on the differences in quality and style of verbal description, as guidance experts knew how to better phrase the instructions. However, environmental familiarity of the guides impacted the effectiveness of navigation. Lastly, building mutual efforts was important for both parties involved in collaborative navigation tasks. As an outcome of this research, we discussed design opportunities for HCI to scaffold requirements of remote guides such that their collaborative efforts and environmental knowledge influence the user experience. We suggest to develop the expertise of remote guides through guidelines for verbal description methods and cooperation awareness to provide effective instruction, as well as approaches to compensate for the lack of environmental knowledge. Recent computer vision technology allows to obtain realistic reconstructed 3D maps from image and depth data, and the use of these 3D maps is beneficial to represent a remote indoor environment for supporting spatial awareness of remote guides. In conclusion, this work has presented the first-known investigation of remote guide performances in assisting people with visual impairments in indoor navigation. Based on our comparative analysis of trained and untrained guides as remote workers, we broaden our understanding of verbal description, environmental knowledge requirements, and co-navigation strategies. We hope that our implications will pave the way towards a promising remote guidance platform for people navigating with visual impairments. For more detail on social and technical recommendations that we've discussed to inform the design of effective remote mobility assistance, please refer to our paper. Finally, I would like to thank my co-authors, whom I had the pleasure working with at the University of Tokyo. This work was supported by Japan Science and Technology Agency. Thank you.